Welcome back. Week 3 is in the books for the NFL, and James is back with his waiver wire. What do you got?
Well, first off, I just want to start off with an update for our fantasy football league here. It was a big week for us. A lot of big games, big matchups. I finally got my first win of the year. I barely beat Tyler today, bringing me to 1-2. And Tyler's 2-1. He's no longer undefeated.
Damn.
Eric handedly beat Kegs by 55 points, and Eric is now 3-0. He sucked last year, but now he's one of the best teams in the league.
Last time.
And then Traden over here beat Alex, bringing Traden to 1-2, and Alex to 0-3, making Alex the only winless team in the league. AKA, you probably have to do the beer mile soon, man.
Oh, and boys.
That's right. I forgot about
thought I was going to get destroyed, and then all I needed was 2 points from Patrick Mahomes, who, oh, by the way, got 40 today. Not a big deal. But I ended up second this week. So I had a shitty team. Like a lot of my players had a shitty week for the most part, at least early on, and I was really worried. Now I'm ready to ball it.
And now Traden's going to go winless for the rest of the year. You heard it here first.
Beer mile.
Getting into our waivers. Beer mile. Going into the waivers here, we're going to start with quarterback. And my quarterback pick for the week is Jared Goff from the Rams. He's owned by 37.4% of people. In week 3, he had 27.24 points against Buffalo, which is, albeit a really, really good defense, guys. He went 23 for 32 for 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and also had 2 carries for 4 yards and a touchdown. Right now, he's currently ranked as number 9th overall QB in terms of fantasy points. And the crazy thing is he's trending upwards. Every single week so far, it's only been 3 weeks, but every single week he's had more fantasy points. In week 1, he had 10. In week 2, he had 23. And in week 3, he had 27.
Week 27.
The Rams offense right now looks really good. I mentioned this before, but it looked like the offense from 2 years ago. And in that offense in that year, Jared Goff finished as QB number 7. His O-line is much better this year than last year, and which gives him more time to read the defense and make accurate throws and actually be a quarterback. Next up, he plays the Giants and the football team. The Giants have a pretty terrible pass defense. They were just beat up by Nick Mullins, who was the Niners' backup quarterback, and he had 343 yards against the Giants. So Jared Goff is going to murder them. I'm going to go around the room here and ask everybody what they think about Jared Goff. Tyler, let's start with you.
Yeah, Jared Goff off to a really, really good start. As you mentioned, looked like the Jared Goff we saw 2 years ago that led that Rams team to the Super Bowl. Like I said, he's got a lot of help. I think this Rams offense overall as a whole is a lot better offensive line, better run game. So that's helping him a lot. But yeah, if I were a fantasy owner and I'm a little thinned out, I don't know if he's a quarterback 1 on a fantasy team quite yet, but I think he's
literally quarterback number 9, so yes, he is.
All right, so like you got a 10-person league and your quarterback's not doing so well. Yeah, there you go. He's
better than Wentz.
9. So yeah, but anyway, I think Goff is a solid pickup. He's like he's mentioned, only owned in about 37% of leagues. If you got injuries or your quarterback sucks, look at Jared Goff.
Traden.
Yeah, it's pretty great to see Jared Goff starting to play well again. I was kind of worried, but at the end of the day, I was one of the only ones that thought they would win week 1, and they did. I think that Jared Goff's starting to feel it again. He's starting to come back. Sean McVay and him are starting to connect. It seems like they might be starting to connect again. Sean McVay is super creative, super great coach, and I think it bodes well for Jared Goff. If he's feeling confident, he's going to start slinging the ball again, which is clear. I mean, he's number 9 now. Me personally, I don't need him. I got my boy Patty, but if you don't have Patty, pick him up.
Eric.
Jared G. James, you told me to drop him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but who'd you pick up, though? Who did I tell you to pick up?
This dude named Robinson who got me 37 points, so it's okay. But still, I'm proud of him. He did have a pretty bad season last year, and we've covered it. He had a bad O-line, but he didn't do well this year. 5 touchdowns, only 2 picks, 27 points last week. That could easily win you a week of games in fantasy, and then the week before 23 points. It seems like he is trending upward, and I would pick him up, except I have Dak Prescott, who actually he did all right this week, but 3-0. I'm just going to stick with the guns, but maybe I'll drop Daniel Jones, pick up Jared G, because Daniel Jones hasn't done too well yet.
That'd be good. A couple of other notable QBs to pick up for your waiver wire is Nick Foles from Chicago. He's owned in 0.9% of leagues. He put up 17 points and a half this weekend. He's now the starting quarterback because, Mitchell Trubisky is trash. Eric. And then also Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He's better than
I do want to give a call out. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
He's better than Cousins. He's 3-0.
Yes, that's actually kind of
Cousins
true.
is 0-3.
That's true.
I do want to say
record doesn't mean everything.
Our big fan Matt Rivera has been giving me shit that Mitch Trubisky is actually better than I said he was. Nah.
He's never going to play again. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick from Miami, he's owned in 5.6% of leagues, put up 25.2 points. He shredded defenses, the Jacksonville Jaguars on Thursday, and he was very efficient with the two. And it looks like he's going to be the quarterback for this year. So it's all we want to play. Fitzpatrick is doing well. Moving on to running back, we got Myles Gaskin from Miami. Shout out to Tyler, who threw this out last week, and I didn't believe him. I was like, yeah, no, he's not going to do that well. I was wrong. I'll be the first person to admit it. Well done, Ty.
Tyler keeps flexing on us all night.
Yeah, dude, you have no muscles, though, so that's weird. He's owned in 45.8% of leagues. In week 3, he had 14.5 points. Against the Jaguars, he had 22 carries for 66 yards for an average of 3 yards per carry. He also added 5 receptions on 5 targets for 29 yards. The crazy thing is about this is that they're a 3-headed backfield, but Matt Breida and Jordan Howard had 3 carries each compared to Myles Gaskin's 22. Snap count-wise, it's kind of incredible here. But Myles Gaskin was out there for 75% of snaps. Matt Breida was out there for 18%, and Jordan Howard for 7%. Right now, he's tied for first with the most targets through week 3. And that's on a team that has Devon Parker as a wide receiver. The concern here is that he doesn't get goal line touches because those all go to Jordan Howard. No matter where they are, if they're within the 5, Jordan Howard gets the ball. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, the amount of targets he gets and the amount of carries he gets kind of offset that. Right now, he's currently the 21st running back in fantasy. Up next, he faces Seattle. They're no longer an elite defense, guys. They give up a lot of yards and a lot of points, and that's why Russ is cooking right now. He has to make up for his defense by scoring a lot of points. And a big blow to that Seattle defense is that they just lost Jamal Adams. If you guys saw midway through the game, he left because of a groin or quad injury. It doesn't look like he's going to be back anytime soon. So, Tyler, like I said before, props to you for having me as your waiver wire pick last week. Secondly, though, does he make your lineup this week against Seattle? And do you think he'll finish in the top 15?
Yeah. Thank you, Myles Gaskin, for backing me up this week and getting everyone else's attention. If I would have started him this week, I would have beat you, James. You'd be 0-3 right now. So I didn't even start him, even though I picked him up. So that was kind of my own fault. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to try and start this guy. Against Seattle, that's an interesting one. Honestly, with how thinned my running back is, or my running backs are right now, I probably will start Myles Gaskin. I think he's got a lot of good momentum with him. And as you mentioned, that Seattle defense isn't what it once was. I think this guy is kind of running back one for them right now in terms of the carries and the bulk of that offensive production. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to heavily consider and probably will start Myles Gaskin for week 4.
Will he end up being a top 15 back?
Top 15, I don't think so. I think he will lack the amount of touchdowns and scores, as you mentioned, to get in that top 15 range. But I think he'll hover right around top 20, right around kind of where he is right now.
Okay. A couple of other notable running backs is Jeff Wilson Jr. for San Francisco. He's owned in 4.5 leagues. Last week, he put up 21.9 points. He's a really good pickup because he's pretty much the only running back that's healthy on that Niners squad that runs the ball a bunch. Tevin Coleman is on IR. Raheem Mostert's injured. He's week to week. And Jake McKinnon just got injured here his ribs last game. And they're playing against a terrible team. Tyler, do you know what team that is? It's the Eagles. They suck. We're going to go worse than 4-12.
It's not getting me started on the Eagles.
Secondly, we got Brian Hill from Atlanta. He's owned in 1.7% of leagues, put up 15 points last week. Right now, the Falcons aren't looking too good either, and they're pretty much just working through all the running backs. As the season goes on, Todd Gurley's going to get more tired, and his knee's going to act up, giving Brian Hill more and more touches. So I think he'd be a good pickup and stash for the rest of the season. Moving on to wide receiver, we have Justin Jefferson from Minnesota. He's owned in 33.5% of leagues. Week 3, he put up 30.5 points, which is second among all receivers. He's, by the way, did really well against the Titans, he's a good defense. He had 7 receptions on 9 targets for 175 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, I was just kind of waiting for this breakout game to happen. He's a really good wide receiver and was drafted to replace Stephon Diggs long term. He won't have this amount of points again, but he'll put up respectable numbers in a Kirk Cousins-led offense. He now has Kirk Cousins' trust, which is a good thing. And this offense really isn't as bad as the first 2 weeks have shown us. They're a good team, and they're going to break out of this funk eventually, and Justin Jefferson will get more points. After this game, he has 15 targets on the season, which only trails Adam Thielen, who has 21. Up next, he has Houston and Seattle. They both have pretty terrible pass defenses, so I think it's a buy here. Traden, you drafted Justin Jefferson, then promptly dropped him the day after. Do you have any regret in dropping him? And after another disappointing week from T.Y. Hilton, who has disappointed you much more to the point that you want to drop him, think about Justin Jefferson.
Oh, I already have. He's on.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow will hopefully. Well, I shouldn't say that. I claimed him, but we'll see if I am in the right ranking. We'll see if anyone beat me out. But this guy, breakout game, 35. Like I said, 30.5 fantasy points, recording 7 receptions on 9 targets for 175 yards and a TD against the Tennessee Titans. Recorded a 71-yard touchdown halfway through the third off a nice play action. And he led Minnesota with 9 targets. That's 4 more than Adam Thielen, and took 2 other big receptions for 33 and 31 yards. That's very respectable. It's very solid. My question was, is this just kind of a one-off on a random Sunday, or is there something to this, or is there a sign of things to come? And I, from what I read, Mike Zimmer actually wanted to see Justin Jefferson get a little bit more look, in Sunday's game, and him taking advantage of that has, all you need to be is invited to the dance, and you can just go. Adam Thielen is going to be your prom king. He's going to be guarded. He's going to be looked at. No problem there. But this gives that freshman stud, that little guy right there coming in, a chance to shine. Another thing is the Vikings D is not the Vikings D of old. And I think that are the days that the Vikings can let their defense win games and have Kirk Cousins kind of throw the ball for so many yards and mostly run the ball just to make them win games 20-17 or whatever the hell. He has to throw it now because his defense is not helping him out. So that bodes well for my boy Justin Jefferson. Add it all together, he's the number 1 in the waiver wire overall. I would say I might even put him along the best wide receiver 2 in all of football.
Wow, I mean, considering the fact that he's like number 75 overall,
yep,
it's kind of crazy. A couple of other notable wide receivers here is Alan Lazard from Green Bay, owned in 39% of leagues. He put up 26.4 points last night against New Orleans. And then T. Higgins from Cincinnati, owned in 7% of leagues, put up 21 points. He's becoming Joe Burrow's favorite target. Like, Joe Burrow looks his way every single time. So if you're in a PPR league, give T. Higgins a look. He'll just give you at least 10 points a game. I guarantee it. Moving on to tight end, we have Jimmy Graham, a.k.a. Jimmy Grandpa, from Chicago. He's owned in 13.3% of leagues. In week 3, he had 24 points. Against the Falcons, he had 6 receptions on 9 targets for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's currently the 8th highest scoring tight end in the league. Even for his old age, he's still a really big body that can catch contested throws. A big reason to add him now is that the bad team, they're going to face a lot of negative game scripts, which means, a lot more passing and a lot more chance for receptions for him. And Nick Foles is now the QB for this terrible team. Nick Foles loves throwing to the tight end. He targeted Jimmy 7 times after half. On the season, he's targeted second and most on the team after Allen Robinson, and that's respectable because Allen Robinson is a damn good wide receiver. Up next, he faces the Colts and Tampa Bay, which, like I said before, will lend itself to a lot of negative game scripts where they'll be following, so AKA more throwing. Eric, your top tight end right now is Evan Ingram, who hasn't really performed up to par so far this season. What do you think of adding Jimmy Graham at all? Would you add him or not?
Dude, I actually, just from what you just said, I might actually add him, but I already threw in waivers for Ebron on the Steelers. But I don't think an episode goes by without me holding a grudge on a fantasy football player. And if there's one guy I'm going to hold a grudge against, OG Jimmy G, and I'm talking Jimmy Graham, because I had him my first time doing fantasy football with you guys. Horrendous year for him. He was on the Packers that year. He dropped like 4 fucking touchdown passes in one game. I remember it. I was freaking out. It was like a Thursday night football game. But like you said, he had Trubisky as his quarterback, who's not as bad as we think, right, Traden?
He's pretty terrible, dude.
He's pretty bad. Nick Foles is better, and he's going to get some passes to him. And a bit exactly what you just said, they're going to be battling games. They are going to throw it to him more. Let's just hope he catches it in the end zone this year, because he didn't for me that one year. But, shit, I might have to pick him up if I don't get Ebron. None of you go on your waiver wires right now and claim him, because I might want to claim him tonight. So we'll see.
A couple of other notable tight ends. Eric mentioned one that I had on the list, and that's Eric Ebron for Pittsburgh. He's owned in 24.4% of leagues, and he had 16.2 points. My main concern there is that Pittsburgh has a lot of mouths to feed. They got Juju, they got James Conner, they even have Deontay Johnson who's breaking out. So it's going to be kind of hard for Eric Ebron to get the ball, but he's athletic enough to do so. Also, Robert Tonyan from Green Bay. I had no idea who this guy was up until last night's game, but he's owned in 0.2% of leagues, put up 16 points. He saw 8 targets the last 2 games. He's becoming one of Rodgers' favorite guys to throw to, so definitely give him a look. Lastly here for my segment, we're going to go around the room, and the guys are going to tell us who their favorite waiver wire pick for the week is. Eric, let's start with you.
Does it have to be a guy we're talking about right now, or that we just talked about?
It can be anybody you want.
I'm gonna show love to my boy Jared Goff. He seems to be on the trend of uprising. Jared Goff.
Trade.
Yeah, I mean, I went with Justin Jefferson after my huge talk about him, but I want to give you something, James, to kind of sink your teeth into. I'm going to pick Adam the Lizard Lazard. 6 receptions on 8 targets for 146 yards and a touchdown on Sunday Night Football. He took over for Devontae Adams and came through big time. He's pretty much secured his number 2 spot. I think he's gained some trust from Aaron Rodgers. And Adams' health for next week is kind of still up in the air, which bodes well. And Aaron Rodgers is looking fantastic this season. I don't know if it's just me, but he's looking great. And best of all, the Packers face the sieve that is the Falcons secondary. I would consider this guy even if Adams draws in. That's how much I like him for next week. So if you have wide receiver issues like me, he's a must pick up.
Really great analysis there. And Tyler.
All right, I got this guy, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, Dalton Schultz. He's currently the 14th ranked tight end. If all those tight ends that we mentioned earlier get picked up and you need a backup tight end or whatever the case is, this guy's not a bad option to look at. He got 20 points in week 2, followed up with a 10-point performance in week 3. Currently in the season, 14 receptions, 147 yards, and 1 touchdown. Not the biggest offensive threat for that Dallas Cowboys team, but someone to keep an eye on, I think, early on in the season.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. And that's it for my segment. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, James, for that. It's always fun to talk football after a great week.